China is a major exporter of affordable electric vehicles, and European Commission investigators will visit Chinese EV makers to probe whether they have an unfair advantage due to government subsidies.
The EU investigators will be visiting BYD, Geely, and SAIC in the coming weeks to assess the situation, which could potentially lead to higher tariffs to protect European car makers.
BYD recently surpassed Tesla as the global leader in electric vehicle sales, partly because it owns the entire supply chain of its EV batteries, reducing costs significantly.
Concerns exist about the low prices of Chinese EVs, with suspicions that state subsidies are artificially keeping their prices down, leading to a distortion in the market.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen expressed concerns about Chinese EVs' artificially low prices due to state subsidies and emphasized the need to address this issue.
Beijing launched an anti-dumping probe into brandy imported from the EU, potentially in response to the EU's investigation into Chinese EVs, affecting European companies like Rémy Cointreau and Pernod Ricard.
An Allianz trade report highlighted the threat Chinese EV makers pose to Europe's carmakers, calling for higher tariffs on Chinese EVs, which could lead to significant profit losses for European car manufacturers by 2030.
Chinese-made EVs in the EU typically sell for 20% less than those made in the bloc, and their market share is expected to grow from 8% to potentially 15% by 2025.
Michael Dunn, CEO of Dunn Insights, stated that no one can match BYD on price, and this has left boardrooms in America, Europe, Korea, and Japan in a state of shock.
Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, has gone from dismissing BYD cars' quality in 2011 to acknowledging that Chinese companies may become dominant players in the global automotive industry.
In the EU, Chinese EV makers face 10% tariffs, while the US imposes 27.5% tariffs, prompting Chinese companies to target Europe's growing EV market.
China has overtaken Japan as the world's largest car exporter, and BYD recently sent its first cargo ship to Europe to deliver 7,000 cars.
European Commission investigators are assessing whether Chinese EV makers receive unfair government subsidies.
The EU's probe could result in higher tariffs to protect European car manufacturers.
BYD's success is attributed in part to owning the entire supply chain of EV batteries, reducing costs.
Concerns exist about the artificially low prices of Chinese EVs due to state subsidies.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen emphasized the need to address the distortion caused by Chinese EV subsidies.
Beijing launched an anti-dumping probe into EU brandy imports, potentially in response to the EU's investigation into Chinese EVs.
An Allianz trade report highlighted the threat Chinese EV makers pose to Europe's carmakers and called for higher tariffs on Chinese EVs.
Chinese-made EVs in the EU typically sell for 20% less than those made in the bloc, and their market share is expected to grow.
Michael Dunn, CEO of Dunn Insights, stated that BYD's pricing has left boardrooms in various countries in a state of shock.
Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, acknowledged the potential dominance of Chinese companies in the global automotive industry.
Chinese EV makers face lower tariffs in the EU compared to the US, encouraging them to target the European market.
China has become the world's largest car exporter, and BYD recently sent its first cargo ship to Europe.